Geoff Mosher covers the Eagles, FanRag Sports. He joins us now with a deeper look at this matchup. But, Jeff, there's a lot of things 5 games in that we didn't know about the Eagles entering the season. What are we learning about this team? Let's hit on a couple of things that you've seen about this 4-1 team that maybe was a question mark entering the season. Give us a couple of things that stand out to you.
Well, Mike, without a doubt, on defense, I think everybody has to be a little bit encouraged, but also pleasantly surprised. I mean, you go into the season with 2 cornerbacks that you know are not your strong point, not experienced. Then you obviously make a trade for Ronald Darby. He gives you what you're looking for. He gets hurt, a really bad, severe injury in week 1, and you think, great, now we're back to square one. Now we're back to what we were last year with our cornerback situation, Jalen Mills and either Patrick Robinson and then Jalen Watkins. But then Watkins and Corey Graham both get hurt for a little bit, and I really am surprised and pleasantly and impressed by the way this cornerback tandem, the way this secondary in general has held up through a lot of injuries. And then just extending that, the whole team has had, they've lost their top corner with Darby. They've lost Fletcher Cox for 2 games. We'll see what happens tonight. Losing, obviously, Lane Johnson's going to hurt, but they lose their best offensive playmaker in Darren Sproles, and yet the quarterback really has compensated. His development has meant everything to this team so far.
Jeff, how about at the running back spot where Sproles went down and then it looked like Smallwood was going to kind of take that role, and now he's out? What do you think about this running back group now entering week number 5 without really, a definitive? It doesn't seem like they have that definitive number 1 guy. They haven't really figured that out.
Well, it's a great point. I think one thing that they really did, and it somewhat goes unnoticed, guys, but I think it's very important. After week 2, Doug said, I really got to fix this running game. It wasn't a bad running game by average against Kansas City. It was just completely abandoned, right? And Doug said he had to fix it. And the biggest thing he did to, quote-unquote, fix it as far as schematically changing things is he took this shotgun spread offense that he likes to run, and he goes under center a lot more to get LeGarrette Blount more comfortable, more downhill, more a style suited to the way LeGarrette Blount runs. I said in the preseason I was very skeptical of how they were going to use him, knowing that they are a shotgun spread formation first and foremost, and then wondering how that was going to cater to LeGarrette Blount, who doesn't run sweeps. He's not he can do inside zone okay, but you saw in the preseason he stinks on it. That's not his thing to do outside zone, and that was a big part of a shotgun spread offense. So I give Doug credit for doing something he probably doesn't like to do, going under center a lot more, and then figuring out how to best use LeGarrette Blount. And then, obviously Blount has been good. Corey Clement has stepped in. Obviously Kenyon Barner, what a great pickup that's been. But just the dedication to the run, I think, has really changed the whole complexion of their offense for the last few weeks.
Geoff Mosher with us. Jeff, a dedication to the run, but in the passing game last week, they seemed to run some more slants last week. Is that something they might need to use again tonight, or should we start to see more of those slant games tonight?
I don't know. I think that was probably, Pete, a reaction to the style of defense that Arizona plays. They're not afraid, as you saw, to send 5, 6, 7 guys and really go crazy. So a good way when you have that space across, you only have 1 safety deep, is to take advantage of those quick slants and those deep slants in that single coverage. Carolina's a zone team, so it'll be interesting to see how they attack that. You can attack a zone vertically with 4 vertical routes like Chip Kelly liked to do, so there might be some opportunities to make some deep plays, or you can attack the underneath. Zach Ertz and Aguilar could have big games there, so it'll be interesting to see what they do.
You said a zone team. Does that mean this is a Zach Ertz game?
Well, I mean, they've seen man, they've seen zone, and Zach Ertz has, been pretty productive against either one. So I think that, when they see a lot of man, Mike, the play action has really freed up Ertz to, go across the middle and make some catches. But he's also a really good route runner and able to sit down between linebackers and safeties and catch passes there. And really, it's been Carson. Carson's done a great job of reading the defense and kind of expecting where the weak spots are going to be and finding them.
And, Jeff, you mentioned Kenyon Barner. There's Star Latulele on the opposite side. Is the screen game an area that we might see a little bit more of tonight?
Good question, Pete. I mean, you mentioned Lotulelele. They also have Kawan Short, so they have a really good, fast, disruptive tandem inside. But those guys are, much like Fletcher Cox, who can get inside out really quickly. Those guys are really fast too, and plus they have some of the fastest linebackers in the game in Kuechly and in Thomas Davis. So I don't know if there's a safe play, or a real good counter play to all their speed. Maybe some misdirection in the running game, but I really think that because of the corners are a little bit banged up and they're a little bit hurt, and you finally saw some Torrey Smith, and maybe this is the game where Alshon and Torrey really make some plays happen downfield.
Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. Even though Kelsey's been solid, this seems to be a tough matchup for him. He does excel, though, in getting out of the screen, Geoff.
He really does. He excels in screens and sweeps. I think the biggest reason for his play being better is that they've been more committed to the run. And when they get that whole offensive line in manageable situations and they're able to get that defense a little bit tired, and then he kicks out there at the second level and gets his body on a linebacker or a safety, that's what he excels at. So they've been able to capitalize on his strength. The last few years, they've tried to pass too much, and that when the defenses know that the offense is one-dimensional and they tee off, they send those big bodies at him. But if you can get Jason on the move and, get him out and help with some double-team blocks, and then just having those other linemen help him out and be assertive in those combo blocks, then it's a lot better for him. So, I mean, we talk about the run game, but he's been a pretty good pass blocker too. But I think it's all part of being a better running team.
You touched on something a moment ago, and I think Doug was asked about it this week. It's the freedom that Carson Wentz is now being given to make the decisions at the line. How much freedom and space are they giving him, and how much is it a case of him making the right decision too?
I think that's probably the key to the season so far, to be honest with you. They've given him a lot more autonomy than you've seen a quarterback have 20 games into his career. Doug calls it the take-it approach, where Carson has license to, if he sees something that he thinks is an advantage, he's allowed to take it. So you see him changing calls a lot of scrimmage and killing plays and putting the Eagles in a better spot, and that's all on him. Wendell Smallwood said in the Giants game, it was pretty much Carson almost playing de facto offensive coordinator, changing calls to a lot of different runs that they weren't even practicing for that week. So it's a huge difference for him. I mean, it's a lot of responsibility, and he's running with it.
Geoff Mosher, FanRag Sports, covers the Eagles at Geoff Mosher NFL. Lane Johnson out, Big V in. Disaster last year, as bad this year?
I don't think so. I mean, it shouldn't be, because obviously it's a year later and the quarterback's playing better. The line overall is healthier and playing better. And Big V have spent a lot of time in training camp or in OTAs when Peters was out getting reps. He's a year earlier. But, Julius Peppers has 5.5 sacks. So it's not like who knew he would find the fountain of youth like that. So it's certainly not an easy first game for him.
Yeah, obviously, and Charles Johnson, Star Lotulelei, Kawan Short, the guys you mentioned there, pretty good up front, but, they're very good at linebacker, too. So this should be interesting to see if the Eagles can run the ball against this team here, because they're good up front. They've got good, fast linebackers. So it should be interesting to see that offensive line without Lane Johnson. They might need to lean on a guy like Vaitai, and he might be a big factor in the game tonight.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if you saw more 2 and 3 tight end formations also for the run to help it out. And it's not a negative for when this team goes to 2 and 3 tight end formations. You saw last week their first 2 touchdowns came from Trey Burton and Zach Ertz out of 2 and 3 tight end sets, because they knew that Arizona is a team that'll put 6, 7 in the box, even 8, or throw a lot at you. So it's a different type of defense they're facing, but a much better front four. And so if you want that extra protection, you can throw those guys out there and still have your up-tempo offense if you want, and turn those guys from blockers into receivers on second and long, or, whatever, play action, third down, whatever you need.
Hey, Geoff, you wrote about it at FanRag Sports about Alshon Jeffrey. He hasn't had the breakout game so far yet, but the Eagles might actually be better off with that down the road, that he hasn't been a big factor yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, just think about that from a negotiation standpoint. The Eagles know they're 4-1 without Alshon, and I mean without Alshon having a huge breakout game. And that's not to suggest he's not going to have one down the road, and I'm sure he might. I'm sure he's going to have bigger games, but it gives him a little bit of leverage at the negotiation table. If he doesn't have 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns, the price could come down and be more feasible. But B, if he does, if it's not going to work financially, then the Eagles know, hey, you know what? We won games without Alshon. It's not like they're seeing a ton of like too deep coverage. So even though Alshon's not catching the ball, he's creating a ton of space. I mean, he's got 20 catches for 250 yards, and they're 4-1. So I think that what you're seeing is maybe some confidence in the quarterback that maybe a different person out there, they wouldn't be so bad. I mean, we're a long way off from here. I just think it's beneficial for them to show that they can win games without him being the centerpiece of the offense.
Hey, do you think, Jeff, they're going to have a tough decision on Nelson Aguilar?
Do I think they're going to have a decision on him?
A tough decision. I mean, he's got that fifth-year option coming up, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty big number, but, if he continues, let's see what it is at the end of the year. I don't think it's that tough of a decision because you don't technically have to pay it, right? You pick it up, and it means that you still have that time to make that decision by that fifth season. So I don't think it'll be that difficult as long as he continues to play the way he's playing.
All right, Eagles down there tonight. Jeff, your thoughts? The Panthers 4-1. Obviously, Cam's playing a lot better the last couple of weeks. They've had some nice wins. The Eagles on the road. These Thursday night games always ugly. Kind of give us your vision of what you see happening tonight.
Well, I love this game because it's two really good teams that are good at doing the same thing. Getting great quarterback play, and obviously great on third down, great ball control. So I really think that I've made the Eagles prove it. I have not given them the benefit of the doubt this year. I didn't pick them to beat Kansas City, and I even picked them to lose to the Chargers. But they've proved me wrong, so I'm actually going to pick the Eagles to win and finally give them the benefit of the doubt because I think they deserve it. I think both teams are playing really well. Carolina should probably be favored because they're at home and they're probably a little less banged up. But what Carson's doing on third down is really special, and I'll go with it. I'll pick the Eagles this and stick with it.
All right, that's tonight. Countdown to kickoff starts at 6 o'clock right here on 97.3 ESPN, live from the Rusty Nail in Cape May, at Geoff Mosher NFL on Twitter. All right, Mosher, enjoy the game, pal.
All right, man. Good talking to you guys. See you next week.